Everybody on a nice Victory Monday. Welcome to Ohio State Primetime Live. I'm Ryan Stano.
And I am Garrison Gaddy.
Well, like I mentioned, Garrison, it is a Victory Monday. A lot of talk from a lot of Vols fans last week. A lot of talk about how they were going to take over the stadium, how they were going to come in and beat them down, and what it ended up happening was an Ohio State just belt whooping. 42-17 in a game that wasn't particularly close at any point. Obviously, we're talking about this game for a large portion of the show, but right off the bat, I want to hear what your reactions were to everything, really. So I guess the first thing is, when the game started and you saw
Ryan, I'm going to stop you.
There.
I'm going to stop you real quick because there's something I want to do first before we even talk about this.
All right.
I want to give you your flowers. That's the first thing I want to do. I want to give you your flowers.
I will always take that.
I was very skeptical going into this game. I thought we were going to win. I was pretty confident, but I wasn't as confident as you. And you talked last week, and you said that throughout the week you were getting much more confident. Now, maybe not 42-17 confident, but you were very confident in the fact that there was a chance that we were probably going to blow their doors off.
I was. And
Sir, you were right. You were right.
You know what? I'll take one W for a few L's I've had over the course of the year as well. So, I mean, look, just having watched film progressively over last week, there were just so many flaws on the Tennessee side that I just wasn't ready to overlook. And rewatching games for Ohio State that weren't Michigan, there were just so many positives that you could take away.
Yeah.
And the Michigan game, as we have found really the last 4 years, that seems to be an anomaly. As long as there aren't winged helmets going against you on the other side, they play pretty well. Even if they don't end up winning all of those games, they still play pretty darn well. And what we saw Saturday was the most complete performance of Ohio State season. I mean, they were dominant from start to finish. Yep. 21-0 in the first quarter. That's a damn good start.
That was a long first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, that was as good of a start as you could have. Tennessee they couldn't find footing at all. And I know you probably felt the same. It was damn satisfying to see those Tennessee fans have some shocked faces there in the shoe. So I guess that's kind of where I want to start. What were your thoughts when you saw all those Vols fans? Because I know we talked about Thursday, and there were some reports that there being 40,000 people there, which it turned out to be nonsense. But there were still more people there than I thought there was going to be.
No, there was definitely a lot of Vols fans, and I mean, again, a third of the stadium, no, that just wasn't going to happen. But they were there, and you could hear them. You could hear them. They were singing Rocky Top in there. I'm not going to lie to you, I might have chimed in a little bit. Love that. I love that fight song.
I know you love Rocky Top.
No, it was. I mean, listen, it was much more fun to watch them leave. I was enjoying the broadcast, watching them leave the stadium. Some of them left mid-third quarter. I don't blame them. I mean, I would rather they have they sit there and take that, that ass whooping after all the talk they did. Because
there was a lot of talk.
Because Ohio State, we didn't really do a lot of chirping back. I didn't do any chirping back and forth to Tennessee fans at all. I didn't do any at all, which is kind of crazy for me because I like to talk my crap.
Well, it was weird. To that point, it was just weird before the game because there were Ohio State fans, and I was certainly one of them, as everyone here knows, caught in the middle where it was, we know the potential of this team. We know how good they can be, but coming off the loss to Michigan, a lot of fans were in limbo with Ryan Day and how they, wanted this game to go. Yeah. So that's why there was a whole lot of talk back, but boy, did Tennessee talk a lot of smack. They called it Kneeling North, Garrison. They called the shoe Kneeling North. How did that work out for them? I mean,
listen, man. I'll tell you one of the funniest things I saw was they said that it looks like the South isn't rising again.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen a torching like that since General Sherman. I mean, that's how bad it was. It was, and look, I'm going to start here at the beginning of the game because what really got things going was they did what we wanted them to do all along. Was they threw it to number 4. They got Jeremiah Smith involved early and often, and he was the best player on that field. I mean, he was dominant. I mean, 6 catches, 103 yards, 2 touchdowns. And he probably could have gone for more if they wanted to throw him the ball more, and he probably should have had more.
Yeah.
That awful interception call that they had where he was clearly interfered with, and he still almost caught that
Yes.
thing one-handed.
Dude, he had it with
I
his
mean,
fingertips firmly.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the dude's a freak. And as long as he's on the field and
Mhm.
Ohio State doesn't have tight play calls where they're trying to get too cute with executing one portion of the game plan that they think they need to win, and they allow these guys on the outside, I keep talking, they've got Ferraris. They need to get them out of the garage and use them.
Yep.
And they used them in this game. And as long as they can do that, this is the kind of offensive output we can see.
Yeah, definitely, man. And there's nothing else I can add to that, man. The wide receiver play was exceptional. Also, G Scott on one drive had 2 big receptions. I don't know how he got that open, but he did, and
It
made
was
2
good to
good
see him get
catches.
open. Good to see tight
Oh
ends get
yeah,
involved.
oh yeah. And then but since you talked about the receivers, I'm gonna go a different route here. The same way I gave you your flowers, there's another guy we have to give flowers to. His name is Justin Fry.
All right, hold on. Before you do that, this comment. Yeah, I made a comment on that before we went ahead and started the show. I know he's representing that Vols orange. I told him.
Listen, 3rd and Wolverines. You know I love you, man. Let's get this thing straight, everybody. This is Hope College out in Holland, Michigan. But
yeah,
listen,
you want to talk about Justin Fry, our favorite guy on this.
Our favorite guy, man. It's
look, the offensive line played great.
Dude, we were worried. We were dead worried, and I was extremely impressed. I mean, that one sack that got turned over because of the face mask, but outside of that, Tennessee only got 6 pressures all game.
Yeah,
156 rushing yards, 0 sacks. And the main guy that I want to bring up is someone that I've been calling for a year and a half to be playing, and that's Luke Montgomery.
Yep.
And they
give him flowers too. He was great.
Cool, man. 2 pancakes in this game. He was coming in and out, rotating. I mean, to be honest with you, I thought he should have been playing. And it's not that Austin didn't play good. Austin, dude, I've been calling Austin. I've been calling him bad all season. Good job, son. Good job. You played awesome.
I think Luke and Sierraveld were the 2 best guards. I thought Tegra, he got bullied on a few plays. Like
let's say it. He sucks. He's big for nothing. I guess it's
of the 3 guards, he by far played the worst. And I know we'll get into comments later about what they're going to do against Oregon, but he was by far the guy that I thought should have played the fewest number of snaps. Now, obviously, it's not something that mattered. Overridingly, the offensive line played extremely well.
Yes.
And it wasn't just in pass protection. You mentioned only giving up 6 pass pressures, but the run game was phenomenal, and a lot of that was due to the play of the offensive line. They were able to, we talked last week about how hard it was going to be for Ohio State to run in between the tackles and run up the middle at this Tennessee defensive line. It really ended up not being all that hard. And they also hit some runs on the outside. Travion Henderson had a long touchdown run there on the outside, and even some of the runs to the inside, they were able to get some headway on. And again, that was because the offensive line, total throughout the game, Ohio State had 156 yards rushing on 33 carries. So that's 4.7 yards a carry. And some of those, the James Peoples had 7 carries for 6 yards at the end. So that's going to hurt that, YPC average. But, by and large, Ohio State got whatever they wanted offensively, and I think a large part of that stems from how well the offensive line played, which both of us thought was the biggest concern coming into the game.
No, most definitely, and with the offense as a whole, I was in a best dead media space. Love those guys. Check them out, everybody, on Twitter, and on YouTube. But we were talking there, and there I was listening to them talk, and if you guys are kind of like, oh man, we're only up by 11 at half. But there are other people, and I would agree with these people that said this right here. They can't stop us.
Yep.
They can't stop us. And when you brought up the interception that Will threw, or I want to say I don't want to say he threw it.
Yeah. That was
just the interception.
Yeah.
That was a missed call. It's a missed call. Yep. We moved the ball up and down the field at will. At will. And we went 1, 2, 3 touchdown, came out of half, 1, 2, 3 touchdown.
Yep.
That was, dude. That was
It was dominant.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
then
you talked about how they just go Ohio State went right up and down the field. I mean, Will Howard
mhm,
he was
yeah,
fantastic.
that's
I
what I
think
was
his
gonna get
best
right
game.
next to.
Yeah, I think it was his best game as a Buckeye. That
Mhm.
interception, you look at a stat sheet and you're like, oh, he threw a pick. That was a nonsensical interception that never should have
Yeah,
happened. 24-29, 311 yards, 2 tutties. And
over
it could have
10,
been
I
worse
think.
because he
Over
didn't
10.
play like the whole fourth quarter. I mean,
Yep.
it was a dominant butt kicking, and he really turned it up. And a lot of it was the coaches trusted him to actually throw the ball. I mean, that second touchdown pass that he had to Jeremiah was a dime. It was perfect, right in his
Oh
breadbasket in
man.
the end zone. It was good. There was only really 2 throws that I thought he threw poorly. The one early at Emeka where he missed him high and behind him.
Yep.
And then he underthrew Emeka. It would end up being a big play, but if he throws it right, it's a touchdown. Those are the only, and that one's even nitpicking because it was still a
You mean
40-yard
the
completion
one
down the
that was
field.
like the one where it was like a really close cut, like right off the shoulder to Emeka?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where like he basically had to turn around and the defender was all up on him and he had to catch
Yeah.
it. Again, if it was a better throw, it's a touchdown. But again, that's nitpicking. He was outstanding. I thought he played with a good fire. And
He was
I,
he
I
was smiling all over that place, dude.
yeah.
He was grinning all game.
And I give Chip, we gave Chip a lot of flack and deservedly
Yes, we
so for
did.
the Michigan game. I thought he came out with a game plan. And we talked about it last week. I thought he was going to do that. I thought he was going to come out with a game plan that was be way more aggressive because there's nothing to
Mhm.
lose. It's the playoff. It's the playoffs. You've got to do everything you possibly can to win the game. And if you go down swinging, you go down swinging. And once Tennessee took it on the chin, that 21-0
Mm.
start, I thought they got rattled and they just kind of quit. They had a little bit of that run there at the end of the first half, and I know you mentioned some Buckeye fans were nervous. I don't think either one of us were
Dude.
worried because, like you said, they just couldn't
Oh,
simply stop
and I
the
mean, and let's be honest here. They got gifted 3 points
yeah,
off that. Well, we can get to the
awful,
defense. We
awful
can get to the
roughing the
defense.
passer call. Oh
That
my
dude,
god,
what are you supposed to do when a quarterback jumps into your arms and
I
you and the left guard that was too trash to block you is
yeah.
pushing you in the back?
And
Like
even the ref that ESPN hired was like, "That's a bad call. That
yeah.
should not be roughing the passer." I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that call, and then they basically gifted Tennessee a turnover on the non-call with the pass interference, and then took away a turnover from Ohio State with
Yep.
that call.
And
And
then
I'm
a
glad.
garbage time touchdown.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm glad none of it ended up mattering because they were just
Yep.
so dominant.
Yeah.
So it did not matter, and that's what.
Oh, and how many pass interferences is the game?
For Ohio State,
Yeah.
good point. 0.
Like we heard there was a lot of things that were said by national media pundits, people on other shows who are picking Tennessee to win based off of one game from the season that we played. It was, and everything that people thought was going to happen, and we talked about this, how people were harping on Ohio State more than actually doing their homework and talking about what Tennessee is. It was clear as day that Ohio State was better in the trenches than Tennessee. It was clear as day. And everyone talked about our offensive line. Well, now let's talk about Tennessee's offensive line.
Yes, let's
My
do that.
goodness, Jack Sawyer. Dude, I have been waiting for 4 years. And I'm sure you have too, for both of those two to be on the same page in the same game.
Yep.
And golly, and then Tyleek, the stat sheet won't show it. It won't show it.
Yep.
Dude, he was everywhere. Kenyatta Jackson had a good game. Curry had a good game. We had some execution sightings. That's always nice to see.
Yeah.
But that D-line was ferocious.
I agree. I think you would agree with me on this point. I think it was their best performance of the season for the defensive line. They were
without doubt.
They were making Nico run all over the place, and what that enabled them to do was sit back in coverage and force Nico to take off and run with it, which he had to do. He had 20 carries in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, you had 20 carries for 47 yards and then those 2 touchdowns. But when he was scrambling with it, he wasn't going very far. Like his long rush was 14 yards. So when he had to scramble because there was no one open, Ohio State was able to kind of corral him and stop him. So I thought the defensive line played great. And
at what point did you know we were going to win the game?
I mean, it was once it was 21-0, because when it was 14-0, it's like, okay, you know what? This is a good start, but we have seen this team can sometimes get tight, especially if you see a team fight back. But then when it got to 21-0 and, Henderson had that long touchdown run, I'm like, no, it's lights out. It's over. This crowd's too into it. It's done. It's done.
Well, since we're talking about the defense, I'll tell you what. I knew the game was over when I saw Nico get up and his helmet was cracked open.
Yeah. By the way, and I'm sure you saw this. Tennessee fans calling that targeting.
Idiocy.
It's a shoulder pad first. Yeah.
No, don't get mad because your quarterback has a big head, and then Cody Simon came in with his big shoulder and cracked the skull open. Don't get mad. It's okay. I'm surprised you guys let him back in the game because he was on that ground for a good minute. But but the defense was hitting hard. I mean, this game reminded me of the 21 Michigan State game? Yes. 21 Michigan State game when Ohio State was up, 42. What was the score at halftime? Or was that 20? Or was that 22?
No,
it
was 40. It was 49-0. It was 49-0.
Yeah, 49-0
And I think that was actually I think it was 20. That was 2022. It was 2022.
Thank you. And a lot of people say, like Dylan Sampson was hurt. Well, why did he get hurt? Because Ransom came down and hit him really hard, really low, and that's what did it. But outside of that, we took him out the game in the first quarter when we went up 21-0.
Yeah,
that's when we took him out the game. Because after that, you couldn't use him.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk to you about that because Sampson wasn't the only Tennessee guy that went down with an injury. They had a few guys that seemed to get hit and not be able to withstand it. And I want to hear your take on this. I think the cold really affected them. I don't think they were ready. It seemed like they got hit. Like, oh, it's cold. It hurts more. I don't know. And injuries are fickle because they happen. And some hits do legitimately make you injured, but there's a difference between being injured and being hurt in a big game like this. So I want to know, I certainly think the cold affected them more than Ohio State. What do you think?
It most definitely did. Dude, I played football for a long time in my life. Getting hit in the cold hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts. Like it's you're tense. I could look at the body language of those guys at Tennessee. When you're breathing really hard, that means you're cold. You are really cold when you're breathing that hard. If you like Nico, he had one of the passes where it looked like he overthrew his player. No, the guy short armed the catch. He dove for it, so he had a little ahead of him. He alligator armed it. You're cold. Yep. It's different, dude. I kept telling these Tennessee fans. I even had Ohio people telling me that, oh no, the weather's not that different. I said, dude, I think as someone who lives in the Midwest my whole life, just as you have, Ryan. Yeah, Tennessee ain't that far away from Ohio, but there's a reason why one place is called the Northern Midwest and one place is called the South.
Yeah,
there's a difference.
Yeah,
and when you have that wind chill, which it wasn't that windy, but when you had that wind chill. And it's brisk outside, like in New York, they say brick. Dude, it's cold. And if you're not used to it and you're practicing, dude, they're practicing inside all week.
Yeah, that was crazy. That's honestly, that's just bad coaching.
And if you're going to do that, you might want to turn the temp down.
Yeah. And you mentioned that 2021 game against Michigan State, it had similar vibes where, the opposing team really thought they were going to come in and do something at the shoe. They're coming with a lot of confidence. Hey, we're a better team than what other people think we are. We're going to come in and we're going to show them. And then they take one shot to the mouth and they go down because they weren't expecting to get hit.
Yeah.
And they didn't know how to react. And I think, we talked a lot last week about how Nico was going to perform as a freshman in the shoe. And I think actually, all things considered, I thought he actually played okay for the surrounding cast that he had. because like you mentioned, the wide receivers giving up on routes with that. They,
Squirrel went down.
Squirrel went down. Dylan Sampson went down.
Mhm.
They had some offensive linemen go down. That right guard was a turnstile for them. I mean, Jack was running all over him. And Tyreek was getting inside. I thought he did the best that he could, but we knew coming in this game. Both of us talked about how we were not worried about this defense. They were going to show up and play, and we saw that on Saturday night, and they showed why that since that first matchup against Oregon, they're the best defense in the country.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt, that's the best defense in the country. And there's things like the only game you can point to where Ohio State really gave up a lot of points is the Oregon game. But Oregon is an elite offense. Ohio State, Oregon, probably bring up Texas. Those are the elite offenses in the country. But then you go and look at the Texas Clemson game. Now, Clemson is not a passing team, but they went out there and threw for 3 bills on them.
Yeah.
Dude, that without a doubt, Ohio State has the best overall defense. Does it have the best defensive line? No, but it's top 3. Does it have the best linebacker unit? No, but it's probably top 10. Does it have the best secondary? Arguably, but I would say top 2. 1.
Yeah.
But and then you have Jim Knowles, who is just, dude, he's been an unsung hero this year, man. He hasn't gotten there's been a lot of conversation about Jim Knowles and what he's done this year, probably because everyone expected this defense to come in again and be dominant like they were last year and really good like they were the year before that. But dude, that was mightily impressive. And I want to bring up something because I was on Johnny Olden's show yesterday. It was in the chat right now.
Okay.
And he said something that is very true. Dude, and it showed again, you can't if you're a team, you can't let Ohio State go up that early. Because it's not going to be good for you.
Yep.
It's not good because you're not coming back on Ohio State when you get down 20 points. You're just not.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Because Ryan Day is going to pour it on. He will pour it on just to make